Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my October wrap-up video. In October, I read 9 books. 4 of them were graphic novels, 8 of them were English, and 1 was in Korean. So last night I just kind of did up a little October wrap-up spread on my iPad so that I can remember what I have to say. So if you see me looking down a little bit, it's because I don't know what I'm talking about or I don't remember my rating, so I'm just checking here. But yeah, I'm gonna go in order of what date I read. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the second book in the Scythe series, and I read the first one in September. And this book is a oh, here we go. Where's the plot? It's gone. Okay, so the Scythe series is essentially like the world has developed this technology, so we can't die. It has managed to fix us and kind of change our bodies so that we can like regenerate when our body gets too old. This is kind of a cool but also equally terrifying part. So I read the first one in September, and then like a typical Neil Shusterman novel, it ends on a big cliffhanger. So I immediately started the second one, and this one takes place after the first one's like big cliffhanger. They are kind of dealing with the events of what happened. So I read that and I gave it 4 stars. Something about, like, I read Neil Shusterman's Unwind trilogy, or I think it's 4 books, but I'm not quite sure. So I read those back in like maybe 2016, and even though it was a really long time ago since I read that, I can still pick up on something in Shusterman's writing that is the same across books. Like, as I was reading the Scythe and Thunderhead book, I just felt like I had read this before, or like that I have read these characters before. So that was a little bit meh. Maybe if I read Unwind closer, it would have affected my rating a lot more. But I still really enjoyed the Thunderhead novel. Another thing is that Shusterman spends about 70% of the book building the world, building the plot. Nothing really happens until like the last 30% of the book, and then it doesn't stop happening. That's when I can't put it down. I have to like keep reading. Every chapter is a cliffhanger. Like, so many things happen all at once that I just cannot put it down. So right now, the Thunderhead novel, a lot of it was just building the world, building the characters, and I actually really enjoy that if it's like my mood at the time. We get to see into so many different characters' perspectives, like that are insignificant but at the same time very significant, is really cool. I really enjoy that aspect of his writing. So I gave Thunderhead a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm really enjoying my current read of The Toll. The next book that I read in October was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm not really a fan of Colleen Hoover. Actually, back maybe 2018, 2017, I read another one. I can't remember which one, I'll put it here. And it wasn't my best. I don't really like how she writes her female characters. But everyone on Book Talk was going crazy over It Ends With Us. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And actually, I really enjoyed it. This novel is about a girl named Lily who grew up in an abusive household. Her father was abusive to her mother, but he never showed any abusive behavior towards her on purpose. So this shows her life grown up, and we kind of get 2 points of view in the story. We get current Lily, who is opening a flower shop in New York, Boston, one of these places, anyways. And so it's just showing her life. She meets this guy named Ryle or Riley, I'm not sure. Anyways, he is kind of like her picture perfect man. And then this might be a spoiler, so if you don't want to watch, go to this time and I will stop talking about it. So he ends up actually having a kind of reactive anger. So when any angry or any situation arises that makes him feel angry, he lashes out and he will push her, he will shove her, he will hit her. And at first I was really pissed off because she kept forgiving him and kept saying, the next time I'll cut it off, like next time. And I was like, oh girl, don't do this, like please, like you keep talking about your mother's situation and how she didn't leave it until your father died and like all this stuff. But then we do get a turnaround, and then we get the other story, which is like her past story. She keeps reading these old journals that she used to write, which she used to address to Ellen DeGeneres. And so in this, she is talking to this guy named Atlas, and he is a teenage boy that has been kicked out of his house, and he is staying in an abandoned house across the street from Lily's childhood home. And they end up meeting, and then they develop like a relationship and all this. And I really like the balance between the 2 stories. And like, I really like seeing how Lily handled her abusive household situation and how it transferred into her adult life. And this novel is really kind of shows how it can be really hard to break the cycle of abuse, but it's not impossible. And it kind of gives hope to people, I think, that it doesn't have to be that way, and that there's 2 ways of it going. Like, her mom stayed with her abusive father until he died from cancer, but she could break that cycle. Like, she did not want to keep the cycle of abuse going down the line because she gave birth to a daughter, and she kept thinking like, what would I do if my daughter was in this situation? And then that was good. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars, which I never thought I would give a Colleen Hoover book, but I did. And I really enjoyed reading it. I don't think I'll read any more of her books because, I don't know, I just don't really like her writing style. 4 out of 5 stars, that was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So yeah, on to the next book. Okay, I'm gonna have to do these a little bit quicker or shorter, or this video is gonna be like 6 hours long. The next book I read was Survive the Night by Riley Sager? I'm not quite sure. I think Sager. And this is a horror thriller novel, and I really enjoyed it. I've read all of the other Riley Sager books, actually, and I think this one's my favorite one. It is about this girl whose friend was just murdered by a serial killer called the Campus Killer. And she is experiencing extreme mental trauma from this because she feels like she blames herself for what happened to her friend. So she is leaving university to go home. And like takes place in like the 90s, so there's no like in really like Craigslist or anything like this. So she posts an ad for wanting a ride back to her home state on a ride board. So like this kind of thing where people post that they're looking to share gas, or they need a ride somewhere and like to pay gas and stuff like this. So she does that, and like immediately, like as she's putting up the ad, someone comes up to her and he says, oh, like, I'm going there, like, let's go together. So she does, and that's the story. And most of it does take place in this car with this guy. And I'm not gonna say too much about the plot because it is a thriller, so I don't wanna spoil anything, but I just wanna say that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and that's why I liked it so much. I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars again. Yeah, so I felt anxious reading this novel. Like, I couldn't stop reading because I just felt like tightness in my chest, like, oh my god, this is making me so nervous, what's gonna happen? So I read it really fast and really enjoyed it. So yeah, I do highly suggest this one. It's my favorite Riley Sager novel so far. So the next book I read, let's check the list. So this is, I'm just gonna talk about these 3 together. I read Lock and Key Volume 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to read a little something spooky before Halloween, and I didn't have much time because I am studying for a national Korean exam right now. So I thought, why not read these Lock and Key? They were all available at the library on the Libby app, and yeah, so I rented them or borrowed them, and I read them all really quickly. Maybe in like a week I read all 3 of them. And I rated the first 2, I rated 4 out of 5 stars. And then the third one I rated 3 out of 5 stars. Because the first 2, it's really interesting and cool. But then the third one, it feels a little repetitive. So the plot of these novels is that these kids, I can't remember their name because characters just gone. So these kids are out in their garden just kind of doing some work, and then they hear something in their house. And what happens is that their father is brutally murdered by one of the oldest son's high school classmates. The family, now having suffered a major trauma in their life, they have like another house, like a summer home in some other part of the country. So they go there and they start finding these random keys around the house. And each key has a special ability, and they have to kind of figure it out. And then the whole progression of the plot is that there's an evil person who wants the keys, yada yada yada, fight ensues. Not much else happens, like, plot-wise, other than this. 1 and 2 got 4 stars, and 3 got 3 stars, so I think they were pretty solid reads. However, maybe if it was not around Halloween, I might not have enjoyed them so much. But yeah, so that's those. Just quick summary of these because they're graphic novels. So, yeah, but yeah. Okay, so the next book I read, The next book I read in Korean, but there is an English translation. It is a Japanese manga, but I read it in Korean. But I'll also talk about the English translation. Okay, so that is this book. In Korean, it's called 너의 이름은, and in English, it's called Your Name, and it's quite popular, I think. So this is about this girl and this guy. This is what I meant when I talked about in my newbie tag. I suck at like talking about books. But they live in 2 different places. She lives in a very small town somewhere in the countryside of Japan, and he lives in Tokyo. And they are completely opposite worlds, but they keep waking up in each other's bodies. And so they've kind of been developing this system where they write notes to each other, they make rules, they tell each other background information. They've even started to help each other out. Like, she tries to set him up on a date with a girl that he has been interested in. And it's really good. And I read it in Korean, so maybe I missed some stuff. I'm still kind of like a high intermediate in Korean. And it's also a novel, I think, and a movie. Because there is an English translation, I do want to recommend it to you guys. Or like, I think it's really cute. I was laughing a little bit. I was like, I really like the characters. They're really sweet. And It's quite a light read if you want to read the manga. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Well, my first 5-star of the month. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to jump into the other 2, probably after my Korean exam, because studying Korean for an exam and then reading in Korean is a lot of brain power. So yeah, I suggest this. Alright, so bear with me. I just have 2 books left and then this video is summed up. Okay, so the next book I read was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, and I really love this book. It's about a trans Latinx boy named Yadriel. So he can communicate with spirits. We have a visitor. So let's talk about the book, Ducky. So a lot of the plot is centered around his kind of transition into being respected as a male by his family, who are a bit more traditional in their views, and his struggle with this. And I really enjoyed reading this because I feel like maybe I'm cisgender, so maybe my opinion or view is wrong. Please let me know. And but I feel like it was a good showing of how people can struggle with this transition and this like gaining of respect in daily life. So I really did enjoy reading that part. I feel like I learned a lot. The main plot is that one day they are doing something and they can feel when someone in their family has died. So they get this like ripple of pain that shows that one of their cousins, Miguel, has died. And so they are like, what happened? It was a very painful death. They could sense that. So they're trying to figure this out. And they can't find his body. So Yadriel and his cousin, they go looking for the body, but they end up actually finding the spirit of one of Yadriel's high school classmates named Julian. They are looking for what happened. They're going through the motions, and then they discover that there is someone trying to raise, I can't pronounce the name, but he's like a jaguar god. And so they're doing this, and then a lot of stuff happens. I can't say a lot about the end because it'll spoil it. So I really liked it, and I won't spoil the ending, but it is happy ending. So yeah. And now finally, the last and best book I read all month is The House in the Cerulean Sea. So this novel is about this world where there is normal people and then there is magical people. So this scope of magic is very different per individual. Like there's magic creatures, there's people who have magic abilities and things like this. But the normal people don't really like them. They don't feel safe with them. They think they're weird. They think they're dangerous. So as children, they are all put into these orphanages or schools where they are guarded, kind of guarded, I guess, but watched over by someone. And then we have this main character, Lioness Baker, who works with the department, let me look, the department in charge of magical youth. And so he goes from orphanage to orphanage, kind of assessing them and seeing if they are okay for the children to live in. So one day he is just at work. He's been there for 17 years and he's never had any like upgrading to his job. What is that called? Promotion to his job. So one day his supervisor comes to him and says like, oh, the extremely upper management wants to see you. And he's like freaked out. He's thinking about everything he did wrong and all of this stuff. So when he goes there, he is told that he has to do this assessment on an orphanage that is like level 4 classified. So it's very secret, and he doesn't know why, but he accepts, and yeah, so he has to go there for 1 month. And when he goes there, he finds out that the children there are a little extra special. not necessarily dangerous, but the public thinks they are more dangerous than other magical children. And when he goes there, he's very closed off and nervous at first. And then he meets the kids. He starts like interacting with them, and their like overseer or caretaker, Arthur. And they like eventually he learns, he becomes to like, where's my English? He comes to love these kids like his own children, and he falls in love with Arthur. So sweet. And yeah, so there's like some conflict at the end where he has to leave and stuff like this. But I loved this book so much. Like, I would do more hand gestures, but I'm holding Ducky, and like it was so sweet and heartwarming and like just so soft and amazing, and it teaches us a lot about like accepting different people, and how if someone appears different on the outside, it's not a sign that they're dangerous or wrong, it's just they're different, and like learning to integrate these differences into society well. And just, I thought it was so sweet, the relationship, the like development of the characters, the sweetness of the story. It was so heartwarming, and like I really loved it. The ending is so sweet. It's just the total sweet book. If you want something that's going to melt your heart and make you feel love and safety and like inspiration, I highly recommend this book. So yeah, please read it. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, well, that sums up my October wrap up. Like I said, I had a really good reading month where I read 9 books, and most of them were 4 or 5 star, just 1 3-star. It was really nice. I did buy an iPad 2 weeks ago, and I do have to say that upped my reading like speed more, because it's really comfortable to read on the iPad as opposed to my phone screen. And yeah, so I'm not gonna talk for very much longer, because this video is already like 20 minutes. So yeah, thank you for watching my wrap up. I don't plan on filming any like TBRs, because I just read what comes to me in the form of like wanting to read, and also what comes to my library box with a due date that makes me more inspired to read them. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you like this video, please subscribe or comment or like, or just any kind of interaction is fun for me. So yeah, thanks. Bye bye.